Welcome from the IIBA Tampa Bay, Florida chapter study group for January 2023. Today is January 19th. This is our 62nd class. We are going to be working on practice study questions for the BABOK Chapter 6 Strategy Analysis. Our mission here is to bridge the gap between industry leaders and business analysts by building partnerships with professionals, educators, and employers so we may empower, instruct, and engage the BA community. You have a variety of ways to reach us. Right now, this is our Thursday night study group between 7 and 8 p.m. Eastern. We have past meeting recordings here in the link. Cliff, if you could drop those into the chat so people can grab those if they wish. We also have an IIBA website, Meetup, Zoom, which is how you're reaching us now, Facebook, and 2 different LinkedIn groups. So if you have questions, we're here to try to answer those questions. In our past meetings, we have gone through the BABOK about 2 chapters, 1 chapter every 2 meetings, so that we can go over study questions, and we find that our conversations as we go over the questions are the most benefit. We talk about what answers cannot be right, what answers should be right, and what answers are right according to the BABOK, which is what you need to know to be able to pass the certifications with the IIBA. In our past meeting recordings, we also have our professional series, meetings 44 through 52. We talked with people of different professions that are related to the business analysis community, people that you may work with or you may be working adjacent to let you know what their job is, what they need from you, and what you can receive from them. This week, we are going through Chapter 6 Strategy Analysis. And if you are interested in purchasing anything from Watermark, which is who sponsors our study questions, Watermark Learning they have given us a discount code, TampaSpace21, which will give you a 20% discount on all of your purchases with them, including business analysis, study questions, flashcards. They also have, I think, project management and goal setting, maybe. They have a variety of other things, but business analysis is the thing that we're most interested in here. We are a volunteer-led organization. We have Cliff, our president, Lori, our vice president of finance, Caitlin and Priscilla are members at large. My name is Thea Soren. I'm the Vice President of Career and Professional Development. If you need to reach me, please reach me through LinkedIn. I'm working to get LinkedIn to update my last name from Raisins, but here is the address that you would reach me, Thea Raisins, R-A-S-I-N-S, should you want to reach me through LinkedIn. If you're interested in being a board member or just volunteering to support our organization, let us know. We have jobs for you. In fact, one of the things we're working on right now is getting incorporated. And if you have experience incorporating, we need you. So reach out and either give us your advice or give us some of your hours, 2, 5, whatever you want, and we will put it to good use for the good of the community. We have 2 different study group advisors, Bob Churchill, who has earned his CBAP, as well as a variety of other things. And he has a website, rpchurchill.com, with business analysis and a variety of other topics that are very interesting to the business analyst. If you'd like to reach out to Bob directly, his email address is there. Yulia, I'm going to just call you Yulia. Yulia is one of our favorite business analysts. She has also earned her CBAP. She attended our study group and took the test and earned her CBAP. And she continues to come and support our organization. And she knows what the test looks like. She has this awesome memory and she has this great way of studying. So whenever we hit a question, she'll say, that's going to be on the test and you need to know what the BABOK says. So it's really good to have her here. Tish Bell also earned her ECBA after participating in our study group for a period of time. And so she has gone on to bigger and better things, but we do want to celebrate all of our wins. So now I'm going to move over to the online study exam. I'm sorry, no, I'm not. We have a member who researched a question out of chapter 5, and he'd like to present, and I'm going to stop screen sharing and let him share. And then we're going to let Bob Churchill share just some things that are beneficial to the organization. So Jim?
Thanks, Thea. Can you all see my screen?
You can see it. Thank you.
Okay, so this comes from, it starts on page 81 of the BABOK in chapter 5, Requirements Lifecycle Management, in the task for tracing requirements. And we had all tried this question last week, and I think some of us might have got it wrong. And I kept thinking, why is it I can't remember it? So I read through those paragraphs for the relationships. There's derive, depends, satisfy, validate, and within depends, there's necessity and there's effort. And so I said, I need to see a picture of this and how it works. So this is not set in stone. It's really for discussion or editing. But you can see the business needs, business requirements, stakeholder requirement, solution requirement that they have on page 80 with design, code, and test related to the solution requirements. So I added in what's in those paragraphs. If you go down this ladder here, you go from higher level abstraction to lower levels of abstraction. That's the derive arrow over here on the left. If you go from a requirement to another requirement, you go depends, then I thought of it as kind of going from left to right. So you have necessity where requirement 1 only makes sense if requirement 2 is implemented, and then depends where it's easier to implement requirement 1 than it is to implement requirement 2. So that's this relationship here. Derive is going from higher level to lower level of abstraction. This relationship has to do with it one depending on the other. And when we get over here to the design, code, and test, the relationship between a solution requirement and a solution component is satisfy. In other words, the component satisfies the solution requirement. And the relationship between a solution requirement and a test is validate. So the test case validates that solution requirement. The only thing that I kind of called out because it wasn't explicit was I believe we can treat relationships with requirements and design the same as a relationship with a requirement. So in other words, so I put that up in here in red. Can we treat designs the same as requirements and therefore have depends relationships with requirements and with other designs? I believe that's kind of true because the BABOK refers to requirements and designs as kind of interrelated, even though they're different. Requirements are based on requirements speak to the need and the design speaks to the solution.
Right.
But does that make sense to folks? Did I get that right?
I would say somewhat. I would say that those arrows you have coming out to the side can really be applied to all the kinds of requirements and even the business need. So remember, in my model, in every phase, problem definition and then conceptual model, requirements, design, implementation, and test, you're always iterating till everyone's on the same sheet of music. And the iteration is the test, the equivalent of code, the review, the buy-in at every phase. So there's something else I'd like to say, and that is that if you think about requirements traceability, it goes both in time through the project life cycle from beginning to end, through all the phases, and I have a different diagram for that. But it also happens logically based on the logic and hierarchy of the actual solution and system you're coming up with. So if you think about it, you plot one on one plane and one on another plane, they should intersect where all the leaf nodes are the same, basically. The other thing I'll add is that, and I won't show a picture of it. I have the several phases of the 6 main ones I always talk about. The business requirements really come from the intended use statements. They're embedded in that, which is the problem requirement. The stakeholder requirements are the abstract requirements in my framework. The solution requirements are part of the design, which what we learned from the architecture discussions we've had happen on 3 levels. So abstract is what happens and who does it. Kind of organizationally, it's business, and then the implementation or how you're actually going to host it is the kind of solution level. So it's functioning on all 3 of those levels at once. And then not shown here is actually something the BABOK talks about, which is transition requirements. And that's a part of the solution. It's the actual rollout, deployment, test, and acceptance. So that's a whole nother layer of requirement that flows out of solution in this diagram. And yeah. So you've captured everything really nicely. The other thing I'll say is on page 100 of the BABOK, up at the top, they describe kind of a life cycle. And so the need and solution scope is the beginning, that strategy, requirements analysis and design, that's requirements and design. And then solution is, any proof of concepts you do, pilot. So that's all implementation, and then operating. You obviously have to go through the test. So what's in the BABOK flows exactly the same way I describe it and you describe it. They just use different language, and I think the other description of that is very helpful. So what you've got here is absolutely right. I'm a big fan of drawing things out as a way to talk about them and share your understanding. So good work. Thank you for doing that.
Excellent, Jim. Thank you so much.
Happy to be of help, and thanks for that advice, Robert. That's helpful, understanding all the layers, and yeah, it's multidimensional. Okay, Thea, do you want to get back to the test?
Well, one more thing. Bob, you had something you wanted to show, correct?
Well, yeah, I will.
Okay. Jim, I did take a screenshot of what you presented and dropped it in the chat for everyone.
Okay, great.
I really think that you did a good job making that understandable. I need pictures too.
Yeah, it's the only way I can. I'm a why thinker. I'm not a rote thinker. I'm
Me
not
too.
good at memorizing lists, but if you can tell me why, I can unpack the why into
Yes.
all of the things that we're supposed to remember.
I think a lot of BAs are why thinkers. Okay, Bob, what are we looking at?
All right, so are you seeing the kind of blue screen here?
We are.
All right, so the 6 knowledge areas flow through in the IIBA's parlance across the top. So these 6 areas here, that's chapters 3 through 7, I think. If not, it's something like that, maybe 3 through 8, actually.
Okay.
And the way I think about what happens in a project is kind of time-based. So the top is value-based, I go time-based, and it's also my experience, as you all know, comes from doing simulations of many kinds for a long time. And I kind of slim this list down and stylize it. So there are really only 6 phases. But if I map with heavy X's, things that apply or where my thing maps to the BABOK thing, you see that the heavy X's more or less flow from the upper right, upper left to the lower right. So we're talking about things in the same order. There are a lot of other relationships because there's a lot of other interrelated stuff always going on. But the requirements that BABOK talks about, they really fit in these major phases. So business requirements are in the intended use, which is why are you doing the project? What's the problem you're trying to solve? The stakeholder requirements come from the actual requirements you identify when you do your discovery, figure out the as is, and it's the abstract to be. And the solution requirements, and remember they're on multiple levels: business, abstract, and instantiation and hosting. That's all associated with the design. And then the transition requirements are part of the implementation. And then you have testing and B&B and so on. So that's the just one more way to put into a picture the way you can think about this stuff. And remember, I guess what I'll do is actually right there. So those are the phases, the 6 major stylized phases. We've gotten rid of some of the administrative overhead. In every phase, you're working together so that you all agree so you can move to the next one. But in reality, different parts of your teams and organizations can be working on all these phases at the same time, and you're iterating not only within phases but between phases in both directions. You're always going back and making sure things make sense, and based on different project kind of templates, there are different ways you can think about whether you're doing a waterfall or agile or a hybrid or whatever. There's one other thing I want to identify here if I can find it. There we go. So that is the requirements traceability, and like I said, that's how you can think about it or visualize it through the project phases. But if you would say look at the implementation, you can imagine another plane perpendicularly intersecting that in the implementation column, and that would be the hierarchical design or representation. So the BABOK actually talks about requirement traceability more within the logical hierarchy than it does through time. So remember that both are important, and I will now stop and hope that was helpful.
You were awesome. Thank you, Bob. I appreciate both of you. Okay, because I'm having some weirdness with my video, I'm just going to shut off my video and keep going. So let's go to the test questions for chapter 6. Let's get a show of hands of who in the chat actually was able to read chapter 6. Yep, Bob's got it open. Okay, I'm going to go on. So this is the Watermark Learning's online study exam. So they give us sample test questions for all of these different tests. We are going to just choose the CBAP and going on in to login. We're going to go into strategy analysis, which is chapter 6, 25 questions, begin new exam. Pretty easy. Okay, my format is I'll read the question and the answers. I need y'all to help me decide what the correct answer is. I need to figure out first, is there an answer that's listed that is not the correct answer and why? And then of the 3 that are left, which one is the correct answer and why? Our conversation again is what gives us value because we learn from each other, and talking through it keeps us going not so fast that we make mistakes. We sometimes do make mistakes, but we learn from them too. So question 1, when executing the task of assessing risk, which of the following are inputs? Confirmed elicitation results, prioritized designs, prioritized requirements, business objectives, potential value. Business goals, confirming elicitation results, prioritized design, prioritized requirements, or business objectives. Business goals, stated elicitation results, prioritized designs, prioritized requirements, business objectives. And stated elicitation results, prioritized designs, prioritized requirements, business objectives, and potential value. So as I said, of these, are there any of those phrases or terms that are not in the BABOK?
B and C are not the options.
Why?
Because I guess business goals, I don't remember as one of the inputs to any of the task force strategy analysis.
Okay. Does anyone else have an opinion about business goals not being in the BABOK?
I agree. I mean, it says a business objectives, but it talks about business objectives and goals, but I don't think that's listed as an input, business goals. So I would agree that B and C seem suspect.
Okay, so that leaves us A and D.
I'm thinking about A in terms of confirmed elicitation results, or as they list it, oftentimes elicitation results, parentheses, confirmed, seems relative. D doesn't seem right when it says stated elicitation results. Stated is suspect to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's C and D.
A.
So I'm thinking A.
Okay, I've got 1 vote for A.
I also say A.
Okay.
What's the difference between A and B? Okay.
Okay, we've got A. Internal and external influences are also inputs to the assess risk task. Very good. Good logic, guys.
On page 121.
Thank you. Kathy is a new BA who asks you to review a business case she developed before she submits it for review and approval. The business case outlines a compelling change strategy and contains rigorous financial feasibility analysis for the recommended strategy. For the scenario above, this is one of two questions. You provide Kathy feedback that while a recommendation is compelling, something critical is missing. What could be missing? Let me scroll down here just a bit. Evaluation criteria for the recommended strategy, an implementation plan to prove feasibility, financial analysis of other change strategies, and opportunity costs relating to other change strategies. First of all, are there any of these we could eliminate?
So we're talking about a business case.
It is a business case.
Mhm.
So what are what constitutes a business case according to the BABOK? Does it include financial analysis of other change strategies?
Well, first of all, the question already says that it has financial feasibility analysis. But in
For the
business
recommended
case,
strategy?
Does a business case have present multiple potential strategies, or does it only present one strategy?
I would think it's totally reasonable to provide an analysis saying, okay, here are many potential ones. This one's best because.
and I think
Yeah.
opportunity cost is the answer. Because recommended strategy, she should be talking about opportunity
That's what I
cost.
was thinking, because it mentions related to other change strategies. And when you present a strategy, you also want to say, we considered these other possible strategies and eliminated them because, so you get your
Okay.
stakeholders involved. That's what I'm thinking, but what do you guys think?
I got two votes for D. Let's see what the answer is. And it is and C is correct. Each change strategy should include costs and benefits in order to determine feasibility.
Oh, yeah, because it's financial analysis, but which includes opportunity costs, right?
Yes, it would.
It's very close.
This is a question like the other one, the previous one that's a little squirrely. Because it's really about the language and not about what you actually do.
Right.
And that's always my criticism of these questions. It's not on the material, it's test ledger to me, just give you something to test. And that annoys me, but I say that.
Yeah, the question, because it already says contains rigorous financial feasibility analysis. That's why I like C, okay, but what about opportunity costs?
Mhm.
Right.
It's a bad question, but
Well,
yeah, it's good.
According to the BABOK 6444, financial analysis and of other change strategies is something that's required for a business case.
Yeah, honestly, I did not.
Opportunity cost can do that also. It's the same thing.
But the verbiage of the BABOK must be for financial analysis.
That's why I think the questions on the actual exam are usually better than.
They're more straightforward.
Okay, let's go to question 2 for the same scenario. For the above scenario, what rationale do you give Kathy for the criticality of the missing information? So what she was missing, let's go back, was financial analysis.
We cannot refer.
Strategies. Say it again.
We cannot come back to the previous question, kind of. What?
This is number 3. Well, maybe it already provided the answer for us. The correct answer is stakeholders need to understand. No, that's not right, guys. This is from the previous one.
Yeah.
Okay, so what rationality? Stakeholders need to believe the recommended strategy is doable or feasible given their resource constraints, She has to provide evidence that she's thought through how the recommended strategy will be evaluated once deployed. Stakeholders need to understand that benefits are correct. Benefits they are deferring for other change strategies, and stakeholders need to understand options considered and rejected to support their decision-making process.
Yeah, D is my vote.
Yeah.
Okay. And apparently it's below the fold. D is correct. Good job. Okay, the business analyst has completed the identification and definition of why a change to a system is required. The business analyst has also identified new capabilities that the current system cannot perform and are required by the enterprise to achieve the business need. Risks have been identified and assessed. What is the business analyst's next step? After the risks have been identified and assessed, are they to determine the architectural gaps, determine the business process gaps, determine a change strategy, or determine the organizational impacts?
Easy.
Well, D is not a task. Right? Are we talking about, it says, does it say task in the question that this is the next, oh, it says the next step. So I'm
Step.
assuming they
It
mean
could
the
be a
next
task.
task. So which
Mhm.
of these are tasks? Determine change strategy is. B is not a task. Determine the business process gaps. Determine architectural gaps is not a task. The only one in this list that I see that's an actual task is C, determine the change strategy, and that happens after risk analysis.
Yep.
So then does that make,
Do
is
I
that
have two
good
votes
logic?
for that? Okay, I think I heard two votes.
Dan
Yes.
Side, I would say that, well, I'd go with B, just thinking about it, but on the other hand, the question kind of says that they've already identified everything in A and B. And
Mhm.
so what you're trying to do is figure out how to implement. So that says C.
Okay, very good. So determine change strategy. The current state has been analyzed, the future state has been defined, and the risks have been assessed. The next step is to perform the task, define change strategy, 643. Lydia is a BA working in a financial institution. The organization has not had success implementing commercial software. Every time a package is bought, it seems to cause more trouble than it's worth with customization requirements, trouble with interfaces, etc. Lydia is torn between recommending a commercial software package and building the software. What technique or tool will best help her with this analysis? A business capability analysis, a business case, a decision tree, or a decision model? Can we exclude any of those?
I guess something which is not technique, you
Okay,
can exclude.
so what do we think the correct answer is?
I'm thinking I would eliminate the business case because but I'm not sure why.
A business case would be a recommendation of a specific thing to purchase or pursue, right?
Look,
Commercial
so
building
she,
software.
yeah, she's between what she do? Should
Oh,
they?
I'm thinking decision model then, right?
Right,
This is buy versus build. It's a decision.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt
So
you,
she's
Leah. Go
gonna-
ahead. What do you think?
she has to figure out what
But
technique or tool
I'm
to use for the
seeing,
analysis.
yeah, to decide what are we gonna build or we're gonna buy. But at the same time, is the company capable to build the software?
Because in the business capability analysis, you'd also be looking at the resources it takes to buy these things, as well as the skill sets within the organization to make a transition to the new state.
Yeah, it's tricky. And again, for techniques, it's been a while since I looked
But
at
business
it.
capability analysis, is
Yeah,
that a listed technique in those words? Because I'm thinking that would
exactly.
be more like a business something canvas. What is it? or the SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It comes to mind, but I don't remember reading a quote unquote business capability analysis in the techniques. So if it's a technique, and it's interesting, they list what technique / tool, because tools are usually listed with guidelines and tools. So this is technique / tool. So
A, B, and D are all techniques. C is not, if that helps.
Yeah.
I think it should be A, because they have already analyzed that the commercial software package doesn't work for them. So now they have to actually analyze if they can analyze their capabilities.
Yeah, so there is a technique, business capability analysis. So you're
Yes.
thinking correctly.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
let's
would
check the answer.
actually go with D.
Oh,
And
Well,
I hate
here's
that.
the answer that they say it should be. A decision tree is a tool contained within decision analysis that will objectively identify the best decision.
Yeah, I think
I
I
was
got
thinking
confused on
decision
the
tree.
difference between decision tree and decision model. I'm gonna have to go back and study that.
Okay. Make a note. Let's go forward. Which of the following is an output of the
Decision
defined
tree
change strategy?
isn't a listed technique.
What is it called?
Business model.
Is
Or
decision,
decision
okay, you said decision tree is not a listed technique?
It's inside decision analysis,
Right.
because decision model and decision tree is inside of.
Modeling.
Okay. Just for interest of time, I'm going to keep going. What are the following is an output of the defined change strategy task? So remember, you've got these diagrams and it says, here's the input, here's the task, here's the output. Which of these is the output of defined change strategy task? Potential value, risk analysis results, solution scope, or alternatives analysis?
Solution scope.
Are you
It's
confident
because
in
there's
your
two,
decision?
I think there are two outputs. I want to discuss it with the group though. I thought it was like the recommendation,
Mhm.
the recommended change strategy, and the solution scope, but I could be off.
Okay,
Other opinions?
I've got one vote for C. Anybody else?
I guess it's solution scope. It's one of the output of change strategy.
Okay, let's check it. Yes, solution scope and change strategy are the two outputs for this task. Very good. James is exploring various strategies to transform the enterprise from the current to the desired future state. How many business cases might James develop in support of his final recommendation? It depends upon the culture of the organization. One business case that includes financial analysis for each alternative change strategy, one business case for the final recommendation, or one business case per change strategy. According to the BABOK, what should the right answer be?
I know it says
I think
something. Go ahead.
B. I think B, but I might be mistaken.
Why do you think B, Yulia?
Because it's recommending transform the price from current to future state. I mean, probably he will need to argue that how they are going to move from current to future states and possible weights and benefits and not benefits of each case.
Okay,
That they could make a final decision.
okay.
Because
that makes sense.
yeah, if there are several alternatives for the same thing, it would be hideous to read 10 business cases.
Okay,
I
I've got one
wonder,
for B.
and I agree, and I think, but I thought there was a line in there somewhere that talked about the relationship between business case and change strategy, and there's part of me that's saying it's D and part of me that's saying it's A, because depending on the culture of the organization, you could say there's you could compare a business, but what is the BABOK?
What is the difference between B and Z? So one case everywhere that includes financial analysis for each alternative change strategy. Okay, one case per change strategy.
Doesn't a business case recommend a specific direction? And so you wouldn't make multiple business cases for recommending multiple different directions, right?
I would think, yeah.
One business case per change strategy.
Okay. So do I have a second vote for B?
Sure.
So we are
I say
between
B.
B and D.
Yeah, I think. it
Yeah,
should
B
be
looks right.
B looks
Let's
good,
check
but what looks good is not correct.
6
Oh, I was right in the first
4.
place, so I wanted to vote for
Question
D.
of definition,
Ah.
and basically, who cares? Both are right.
Yeah, both are correct, but it's not.
Question will do your job and do the work. It's just a fight about the verbiage to use.
Okay, so B is what we would use in the real world. D is what the BABOK says. B even says you may experience with this response, but it is not stated in the BABOK. What's stated in the BABOK is what will help you pass the test. Business analysis. Go ahead, Yulia.
Yeah, to me, I mean, I'm not an English speaker, right? I'm not a native English speaker. To me, it's kind of almost the same as the meaning.
Very close. I agree.
Very close.
But you need to learn what the BABOK says to be able to pass the BABOK.
I know.
Which of the following statements best describes a common test for assessing business objectives? Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time-bounded, specific, manageable, achievable, relevant, time-bounded, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bounded. It's the same as, okay, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, testable. Okay, so SMART is the acronym. Which one of those is the words that should be in the acronym?
I know time-bounded is definitely in SMART.
Okay, so it's not B.
Specific is there.
It's
Go ahead. I think
It's
realistic
C.
is the key there, isn't it?
it's the C, I think.
Is
Specific.
it manageable or measurable?
It's
Measurable.
measurable. Yeah.
It's
Okay.
measurable, so it's either A or
So,
C,
A or
right?
C.
And I think achievable is
Then
common, so is it relevant or realistic? And I
relevant?
think
It's relevant.
realistic is
Yeah,
my vote.
Renu is correct.
Okay.
Okay, let's check it. And we are right.
Ah,
Because
relevant.
realistic is kind of achievable.
Yeah, it's good. Yep.
Yep, okay, good. So specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bounded.
Why would you ever do anything that's not relevant? That's goofy.
That's goofy, I agree.
You don't work where I work.
In what situation would a feasibility analysis be most useful? Migrating critical applications to a cloud environment, buying a COTS package, which is commercial off the shelf, when a sponsor places constraints on a solution option, or resolving a business problem. When would you use the feasibility analysis?
What we can throw away right away.
What can we throw away, Yulia?
I'm asking the students.
Oh, okay, guys, which one can we
I mean,
throw away?
I guess A we can throw away, migrating
Yeah.
critical applications.
Yeah, I agree. It should be A because you can buy a COTS package. Others are feasible enough. When you sponsor place, anybody can place a constraint on a solution. And we can resolve a business problem, but we have to see whether it is feasible to migrate the application to the client cloud environment or not. Feasibility is specific to A, according to me.
Okay, thank you. Do I have another vote for A?
I think it's B. I don't know.
Why do you like B, Yulia?
I mean, buying software is very serious. How it's going to affect other departments and the ecosystem.
Okay, do I
I
have
think-
another vote?
I
A
think
and B are better answers than C and D.
I think what we're looking at is the concept of risk in this, right? If it's got risk, then we would want to figure out if it's feasible. And it seems like COTS has less risk because you know what the out of the box solution does. So there's less risk with that. Whereas I agree with Renu on A, because migrating critical applications to a cloud environment, you have multiple applications, you've got this cloud. And so I think there's more risk in A, and that's why my vote's for A.
But is it feasibility analysis is about risk?
It's about whether,
Honestly, I don't
feasibility is
remember.
about whether you can do it or not.
Yep.
Mhm.
And that says to me A or B. C and D you can always
Yeah.
do.
Okay,
So
let's
between
check
A
the
and B.
answer in the interest of time. Migrating critical
A.
applications to a cloud environment is a major and complex endeavor. A feasibility analysis is warranted, especially given the criticality of the applications. So it's citing two different locations there, not only the location in chapter 10, but the place it's mentioned in chapter 6.
Chapter 10.7 is business case technique.
Next question. Kathy is analyzing the current state, working with her team and stakeholders to identify and define why a requested change is needed. What is the output of the task Kathy is working on? Is it business goals, elicitation results confirmed, stakeholder engagement approach, or business requirements?
this is a task. So which of these is not a task?
No,
Business
output of the
goals?
task.
Oh,
The output of the
output.
task.
Oh,
So it's
gotcha.
a thing that's an output of a task.
So she's trying to identify and define why change is needed.
I think it's D, business requirements.
Yeah,
Mhm.
D seems, yeah, that seems reasonable. D, business requirements.
Okay, let's check the answer. It is correct. Good job. Which of the following techniques can be helped to define the solution scope? Cost benefit analysis, functional decomposition, root cause analysis, or work breakdown structure? Solution scope.
And technique. What is not technique here?
A, I think cost benefit analysis.
I know D is not correct because work breakdown structure is a project output, not a. And functional decomposition, wouldn't that help with the solution scope? Or A
Functional
and B seem
decomposition
candidates.
is, I think, further breaking down the solution scope into smaller modules of work, subtasks. So,
But there
Well,
is
functional decomposition is breaking down either the as is or the to be. The work breakdown structure is the task you're going to do to solve the problem. But B is the one that lets you understand it.
I think functional decomposition relates to how you define the scope of the work, but cost benefits speak to whether or not you should do certain solutions. They're both candidates. I agree with Brenner
This
that it
is
could be
the
either.
most straightforward question I've seen tonight.
Okay, we're going to check this answer and see if we are right. Functional decomposition is used to break down the components of the solution into parts when developing a change strategy. So you got 10.22 for the technique and 646 for the item in chapter 6. Business analysts assist in planning the timing of the implementation to ensure all parties understand the impact of the organization and to ensure minimal disruption. Which of the following factors do not guide implementation? Project approach, training schedules, ability for the organization to absorb the change, or resource constraints.
I want to say project approach, because a predictive approach versus an adaptive approach don't really affect the implementation, but knowing when people are going to be trained, or the ability of the organization to absorb the change, or any resource constraints would affect the thing about minimal disruption and so forth.
That is a well thought out argument. Good job, Jim. Anybody else have an idea or a vote? Okay, with time, I'm going to go ahead and check the answer. Correct. This is not a stated factor in transition states and release planning. Jim, you're a rock star. A business analyst is writing a business case and has qualified the financial benefits of alternative solutions as a means of assessing which solution will be presented to the overall recommendation. A stakeholder has suggested the business analyst to include a value assessment of a critical qualitative benefit as well. Question 1 of 2. Which of the following best represents the example of a qualitative benefit? Improved customer satisfaction, total cost of ownership, improved return on investment, or shorter payback period?
It's A.
A.
Improved customer satisfaction. Yeah.
Right. Qualitative is kind of not an old word. That is
Easy
correct.
question.
The next question on that same situation: how are any financial analysis and value assessments validated? By relating them back to the business needs, by relating them back to the business requirements, by obtaining sponsor approval of the stated value assumptions, and by relating them back to the strategic goals and objectives.
D.
I'm sorry, say it again.
Option D, by relating them back to strategic goals and objectives.
Okay, do I have another answer? Another
D,
vote?
Doc.
Okay, A and D. Do I have
No,
another
D,
answer?
D. He said D.
I'm saying D.
I said D.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay,
I agree. Too.
okay, let's check
I
it.
would say C, but that's wrong. D is right.
Okay, financial analysis and value assessments must align with the strategic goals and objectives of the enterprise. We are going to run out of time and not get our full 25 done. If somebody can do the math whenever we look at it, I would appreciate it. Elizabeth is working on a complex government regulated project where a great deal of uncertainty exists because of the unknown requirements that do not show up in government file specification. How might Elizabeth and other stakeholders identify potential negative impacts to value? There isn't enough information in the government specifications to identify potential negative value impacts. Utilize lessons learned from past projects and expert judgment from pertinent stakeholders. Schedule an interview with relevant government personnel to obtain more specific information, or perform document analysis. Any of those we can eliminate?
A is not the answer, I guess.
Okay, I agree. A is not a good answer according to BABOK.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think is the right answer?
Potential negative impacts are risks. Another word for risks. And aren't risks reduced if you look at lessons learned from past projects and talk to other stakeholders?
Well, do you think that A could be an answer, Jim? Because you just said it's not going to be one of the answers.
Well, so many times these questions do say there's not enough information. It turns out it's the right answer, but
in real life, I guess we would make an appointment.
In real life, but I want to know what the BABOK says. Only one
I
of these.
think that BABOK's asking what we do when there's uncertainty and risk. And if I recall, there was a line in there about using lessons learned to reduce risk, but
Okay, let's check
Hold on,
that answer.
utilize lessons from pertinent stakeholders.
document
I also
analysis.
like the idea of just talking to people and bringing more people into it.
I don't know. I think C, but it might be B. Okay, let's go.
Okay, let's look.
Be
B is
correct.
correct. Even when it's not possible to know all that will occur as a result of a change strategy, it is still possible to estimate the impact of the unknown or uncertain level of events or conditions. That sounds like a really timid place for me to be, man. Your team is writing a business case and is having trouble agreeing on the business need. High-level requirements have been elicited and preferred solution identified, but the stakeholders are still conflicted about the business need. Which statement best describes this situation? The team members are representing vying perspectives. The enterprise culture just isn't ready for a formal business analysis approach. An organizational assessment should be conducted. Business need were probably initially expressed along with a presumed solution, or eliciting of requirements did not include a project sponsor. Any of these we can eliminate. According to the BABOK.
So they've got high level requirements and they've identified a solution, but did they identify that solution prematurely? Did they do current state first?
That's the problem. It looks as though C might be the answer.
It is.
What Julia says
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah,
Let's
that's
check.
what I was thinking too.
Okay, here we are. The business analyst should question the assumptions and constraints that can be buried in the statement of the issue to ensure that the correct problem is being solved and the widest possible range of alternative solutions are considered. One of the things I love about being a business analyst is I can ask what we call the dumb questions. I call it my Columbo approach. You know, just help me understand why we're doing it this way. And they may have a perfectly good reason, or they may have a reason that doesn't make any sense. Just no one has asked the question. Okay, I'm going to stop us here. We're going to submit exam, view results.
And actually, I think that
So-
last one we got right. We just clicked the wrong
No,
button.
we got it right.
Did we?
Okay,
Okay.
so we got 13 wrong and 12 right.
We got 12 out of 16.
81%.
75%.
Okay, 12 out of 16. So we're doing
Hey.
pretty good, guys. Okay, next week we're going to go over this chapter again. This is chapter 6. Please review the techniques as they're mentioned. Go back to chapter 10 and review those techniques because it's important. As you saw, it's going to ask you questions about what, if you're using this technique, what is the reason you're using it, or what are the benefits of using it, or when do you use it? But it's all related to the techniques that are mentioned in chapter 6. So I'll look for y'all all back here. Those of you who participated, you contributed to the value of this meeting and this organization, and I appreciate it very much. I'll see y'all here in 1 week. Be safe. Bye, guys.
Yep, see you next week.
See you guys.
Love you. Thank you.